Chris A. Williams joins me here today. We're going to be talking about creative financing and wholesaling and a few other things. Really appreciate your time here today, Chris.
Yes, sir. I appreciate you having me. I'm looking forward to the episode. Definitely looking forward to giving value to some people and talking about some cool things when it comes to real estate and real estate.
Yeah, well, let's start with your origin story. How did you find your way into this?
Yeah. So I actually started out as a real estate agent. That's how I got my first start in real estate. I started as a real estate agent when I was 20 years old. Not many people do start at a young age. And if they do, it's more so because they have connections. Maybe their mom, their dad, they were in real estate, or maybe they watched the show and just were inspired. They were like, I always knew I wanted to be in real estate. That was not me whatsoever. I didn't know the difference really between buying and renting until maybe 6 months before I got licensed, to be honest with you. Like, I had no background in real estate whatsoever. I kind of found real estate by fate, but just to wrap it up, I was a football player growing up. That's what I was known as, and that's what my plan was, to play football at the next level, use that to get a scholarship, then do sports journalism, major in communications. But a week before training camp started, I found out I ended up losing my scholarship. So that point, it's really not much for me to do. So just had to pivot in life, find out which direction I'm going to go. And while I was trying to figure that out, I was working two jobs pretty much all day, every day, 7 a.m. to 9:30 p.m. And I was doing that for a while. And I was like, this can't be life. Like, no way. I'm supposed to live the rest of my life this way. So my first job, which was at Enterprise cleaning out cars, we had a lot of free time, I'll say, in which we could listen to music or watch videos or listen to podcasts. And I chose to listen to podcasts. And my favorite podcast, the host, he was always talking about real estate. I'm like, okay, what is this real estate thing? This seems interesting. And it really struck out to me because you didn't need a degree. It didn't matter your background, didn't matter how you looked or anything like that. You could make money in real estate as he was pitching it. So I started doing my research on real estate and I realized he was talking about a real estate investor. And at the time, I was 19 years old with $30 in my bank account. So I'm like, I don't think I can do this real estate investing thing because all I knew when I looked up real estate investing was you had to have the 20% down or do hard money. I'm like, I got $30. I can't do that. So I started researching some more. And then real estate agent popped up. And my second job was actually a salesperson at Foot Locker. And I was one of the top salespersons in the district and selling shoes. So I'm like, all right, well, it's all sales at the end of the day. If I could sell shoes, I could sell houses, no problem. That was my thoughts. I purchased the course and within, I'll say 6 to 9 months, I end up getting licensed. And as soon as I got licensed, bang, world shuts down with COVID. So that's kind of my origin story getting into real estate.
Hmm. So, you talk about being so young, getting into this. Like, did you ever find your age being kind of a problem, or is
Oh yeah.
that was something that pretty easily overcome?
It was at first 100%, and a lot of that was internal, I'll say, because everybody was so much older than me. Like, they were literally twice my age, and, a lot of people had kids that were older than me. So, not just agents, but other clients. So, it's hard when you're helping somebody with such a huge investment, like purchasing a property or such, or advising them on that, and you're younger than their children. So, you really have to have the knowledge up here. That's what matters. And because I was so new to start, I just simply didn't have the knowledge up there. Even though I was working hard, I was working diligently, doing the ththings I was supposed to. I just didn't have the experience yet. So I would say it definitely was a problem. Like even when I was cold calling at first, it used to kill me. I would be on the phone and I would think things are going well, and they would be like, "Hold up, how old are you?" I'm like, "Oh man!" Every time I get that, every time they say that, I'm like, "Dang!" And then I tell them, they're like, "Oh, well, I got a son who's older than you, so and so," and they're like, "We'll think about it. We'll reach back out to you." And we know what that means. They're not going to reach back out to you.
Mhm.
So I think how I was able to overcome that though was just like I said, just getting the knowledge up here. So even though people knew I was young, once I started really working on my knowledge, really started working on my expertise, then they're like, "We don't care how old you are. We don't care how you look. We don't care about none of that. Like, you can help us. Like, you can save us money. You can really get us in these deals. So we want to use you."
So where did you start then? Like, did you jump into wholesaling first? It sounds like, well, you started with realtor, but
Mhm.
when it comes to the investing side, what path did you initially take?
Yeah, so I took a different path, I'll say. So a lot of people, they'll do the path of they'll start wholesaling to raise capital. Then once they have capital to do flips, and then once they have some capital from flips, they'll buy rental properties and so on and so on. I kind of did it reverse. I brought a rental property. That was literally the first thing that I did. And then I believe I had bought 2 rental properties before I had done my first wholesale. I did a couple wholesales, then I did a flip. So, yeah, I don't really like flips. It's super stressful and, yeah, it's a lot with that. So, if I have a flip opportunity, I would much rather wholesale it, but my preference is to buy and hold properties.
Are you still hold your realtor license today?
Yes, yes, 100%. It just helps out so much, and like, I teach my agents, so not only am I just a real estate agent myself, but I also own a real estate brokerage and have a real estate team and what we call like unicorn agents. And these are agents that are specialized in working with investors, specialize in giving value to investors. Because honestly, any agent can say they're going to work with investors, but can they give you value? Most agents simply can't because they don't have the knowledge. So I teach my agents the knowledge so they can actually give value to investors.
So this is kind of a unique situation then. You're realtors that are working with investors.
Hmm.
So is that something that you had to like that's got to be different especially in your market.
Yeah, we are, which I love it though. I'm glad most people don't do it because it makes us more money, to be honest with you. But I feel like it's such an easy lever that I don't understand why most agents don't engage with this, why most agents don't do it. Because like you're just losing out on money. Like there's so many agents who will go to a listing appointment and they'll walk out of there and be like, "Hey, I can't help you because the property isn't list ready." But as working with investors and being an investor myself is we can provide sellers so many opportunities, so many different ways in which they can make money from a deal and also in which we can make money from a deal. So it's mutually beneficial. So I honestly, I think realtors who aren't working with investors are kind of doing clients a disservice, to be honest with you.
Well, I feel like I'm going to be beating a dead horse here, but
Mhm.
it almost seems like some investors are like they'll do anything to avoid being a realtor.
Mhm.
Like because they find it too restrictive or what have you. But you see it more of there's more benefits than not.
Yeah, 100%. I think if you're an investor and you're already investing yourself, you don't necessarily need to be a realtor, but I would definitely recommend having a good realtor in your back pocket just because it makes things so much easier and so much more streamlined if you have a great connection with the realtor. But like I said, you have to work with a realtor who's providing you value because if you're working with a realtor who is gonna be very uptight and they're not willing to think outside the box. That's not really a realtor that you wanna work for because their main focus is just on their 3% commission for buy, sell, regular clients and such. You wanna work with a realtor who's willing to work outside the box, and maybe they won't get 3% from this one deal, but you gotta pitch it to them, let them know that, "Alright, for this one deal, you may take less, but I can give you 20 more deals for the rest of the year," which makes more sense, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things that we've gone into the habit of. If a realtor brings us a deal and we end up buying it, we'll typically list it back through the realtor once we flip it.
Exactly, and that's why I tell my agents, like, it's so many benefits of working with investors. So if you work with a traditional seller, you're just gonna get paid once typically. When they sell it, and a lot of times they're moving out of state, but if you work with a flipper, not only if you find a deal, you can get paid the buyer's agent commission, there's one. When they list it, cool, you get paid as a listing agent, and as a listing agent, leads just come to you without you even having to look for it, like, buyer leads just come to you. So you can double end it, have dual agency, and get paid 3 times from 1 deal. And then if you do a good job, because your investor, they typically are doing more deals, guess what? They're gonna wanna do more, and this is the way to scale your business and get it big to however you want.
Well, Chris, let's broach the subject. How old are you now?
I'm 25, I'll be 26 in a week.
Oh, okay. You think you've lost track of that?
Yeah, I've lost track of that. Depending on when this episode comes out, I'll be 26.
Well, what is telling you, the reason I bring that up is because the statistic I saw regarding your team is like by 25, you've achieved nearly 60 million in sales. Is that right?
Or that was what we did last year, was about 60 million in sales. So,
So, for being your age, you've built a team
that's a great question.
regarding business ownership and breaking through kind of any kind of limiting mindset you might have had.
Honestly, I would say it kinda came to me how I was as an agent because I never really wanted to rely on Zillow leads or these paid platforms or what my brokerage at the time was giving me. So I built my career off of social media specifically. And I was getting so many leads that were coming in from social media, like on a bad day, probably 20 leads. And that's too much for one person to handle because I had done the hard work to start my career. But as I started to get some years in, year 3 or 4 and such, I'm like, "All right, I kinda want some time back. I kinda wanna travel, do these things," and I didn't necessarily wanna have to do those 80-hour weeks again. So, it was just too many leads coming in, and it got to a point, like, I didn't know what message requests were, even though I should be tech savvy because 'cause I'm younger. I just didn't know what that was, and I checked in there one day, and it was, like, 50 conversations from people, and these people were like, "Hey, I wanna buy a house, like, I'm pre-approved," or someone's like, "Hey, like, I want to sell my house like next week. Can you help me out?" And all these messages I just missed because I didn't know what that was. So that was kind of like the deal breaker. I'm like, all right, I need to bring some help on. I need to bring some support. So my first thing was, of course, bringing on the admin, bringing on a TC. Then after that, I brought on an agent. And that agent, he had previously been with the brokerage, I would say, for around a year, and honestly, he didn't know anything, like, he didn't know how to write an offer. But within 90 days, he was able to sell his first house. So I'm like, "Alright, cool, well, we got a proof of concept here. Let me try to bring on another one." And I brought in another one, and similar story. She was brand new, but she was able to sell a house very quickly also. So I'm like, "Alright, cool, I did it twice now, I definitely think I can multiply it." So we just kept on adding more and more agents, and then before you know it, by the end of the year, we're at 60 million in sales.
You were about to say where this mindset comes from.
Okay, got you, got you. So, as far as where that mindset came from, I'm a man of strong faith. So, I always feel like God's just always been telling me just abundance, abundance at the end of the day. Like, no matter how comfortable I've tried to get or how I've been like, hey, we're fine where we're at, I feel like he's always just pushing me for more. And even when I'm like, nah, I'm good, like, we're good here. He's like, nah, I want more for you. Like, I want better for you because that's my plans for you. So at the end of the day, I just trust his plans and he leads my steps at the end of the day.
That's awesome. I just really admire that type of mentality. You sound like I've been consuming a lot of Myron Golden lately,
He's good. I like him.
and there's been some of those type of messages that I've needed to hear at this particular moment.
Yeah, he's really good.
So, could you kind of break down then, like, as you're building this team,
Hmm.
what are some of the things that, like, some pain points you experienced during this scaling process?
Oh, probably the question would be, what is something that wasn't a pain point? This process. It's been super interesting. I'll say, kind of going from just a traditional real estate agent, and honestly, like most real estate agents, we don't run our business like a business. At the end of the day, we kind of run it as like a hustle. And it's like, all right, well, we'll wake up today and see, kind of see, follow up with our leads, things like that, and hope to get clients, things like that. We don't really have KPIs. We don't really have metrics to track. That's how most real estate agents run their business. But when you're running a business, you need to be able to track things. Data is one of the most important things when you're running a business. So that was such a tough transition for me. I hated math. I did not care nothing about math, formulas, things like that. But running a business, you need to know the math. So that was a big change for me. Like, not just knowing the data, but knowing the correct data and being able to convey why data is so important to my team members also too. Because like just said, the mindset of many agents is they don't care nothing about that. They just think, all right, 100 leads, let me go call all these leads and, hopefully one of them buys a house or sells a house. But you got to have data because you got to have a predictable business. So that's one big thing also. Another thing I would say that was a bigger challenge is when you get a lot of people in one setting, especially in a career like real estate, everybody can be different. The personalities are different. Just kind of just dealing with different personalities, making sure people don't clash when there's conflict, because there is going to be conflict. How do you deal with that correctly? How do you not offend people? But also, like, how do you push people to be their best self? So that's the thing I've kind of not, I don't know, struggling with is the best word, but I feel like I really care about my agents. I care about anybody in my company a lot. Like, I really care about them a lot. And sometimes I think I can care for them more than they actually care for it themselves. Like, I want it better than they do. I'm like, hey, you said that you wanted to sell X amount of homes. You said you want to do this, and that. Well, I'm looking at your daily actions. It's not leading up to that. Like, what's going on? But me having that conversation with them is actually out of love. It's not out of like, hey, like, I'm trying to be a stickler on you, but sometimes people can see it as like, like he's just on my back and things like that. So that's
Mhm.
been one of the interesting things I'll say.
That happens quite often that you care about things more than those around you. And it's until people have made the decision for themselves, it's very hard to motivate.
Yeah. So on our end, we're just kind of going back to our hiring process, just reworking that a bit, making sure we're laying the expectations. Because just honestly, I'm the type of person where if anything goes wrong, even though people may say there's nothing you can do, I always feel like I have some fault in there. There's always something that I can change. There's always something that I can do. So definitely want to revisit that and make sure that we're actually laying out that expectation because maybe agents may think like I can kind of come here and just kind of coast, but that's not really the company that I want to run. I want to see everybody become their best selves at the end of the day. And coasting, it just it won't get you there.
Right. Just to remind everybody, I'm going to point everybody to Chris's YouTube channel. So look for I am Chris A. Williams. I am Chris A. Williams. I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show notes. And do us a quick favor here. The only way this show grows is if you share this with one of your investor friends. So would you please do that? And if you're watching us on YouTube, like and subscribe. So, Chris, I'd like you to give everybody a shock to the system here.
Okay.
Give when they get into real estate investing or being
Mhm.
a realtor, whether it's wholesaling or what have you,
Mhm.
I actually don't think they understand the level of effort. So
Yeah.
break down your day. Like, what do you have to do to get something accomplished?
Yeah, let me tell you, even before what I do now, I'll kind of tell you how I started as a real estate agent to be able to get deals. And I didn't have a great start, honestly. And I was working hard. I only sold 2 homes my first year, only two. And I was working full time. And I wasn't just working full time, I was working 80 plus hours a week. I was the first one in the office when I was allowed to go to the office because COVID, of course. I was the last one out. And I was working weekends literally all day. My friends, my family, they were going on vacations, they were partying. I refused to do any of that. Like I didn't do any family vacations, anything. My whole exact purpose in life at the time was just real estate and expanding my career. Even with that amount of work, I still only sold 2 homes. Now, the next year was better, of course, but I just think like, all right, well, what if I just worked a traditional 40-hour work week? How long would it have taken me to get successful? Like, but my mindset and what I think should apply for anybody when they're starting in business or if they're in real estate investing or become a realtor, you have to if you wanna get somewhere fast, you have to just put in more work than anybody at the end of the day. It's just as simple as that. You have to do it so much that it wouldn't make sense for you to not be good. So if we think about NBA, for example, Steph Curry is so good at shooting threes because he shot so many threes over such a long period of time. If he had just started shooting threes, no, he probably wouldn't be a good three-point shooter. So I want everybody to know that you just gotta put in the work. You just have to. There's really no way around it unless you're just blessed with a bunch of connections and things like that. But even if you do have the connections or relationships, you do have to maintain those relationships by making sure you're doing good work.
I wanted to point something out here. Have you ever seen that there's a dip when we're talking about any kind of new venture? There's
Mhm.
this optimistic ignorance
Yep.
where you start out and you're just gung ho and ready to fight the world. And then it starts to drop into a pessimistic education. You're
Mhm.
just like, oh crap, I didn't realize that. Oh, this is a lot harder than I
Yeah.
thought. And then you fall into the valley of despair. And this is where most people fall apart. The valley of despair is do or die. People give up.
Mhm.
But you have to work through that, and then it becomes educated optimism, and
Mhm.
then you can see some success. Like, you stuck with this being a realtor for a full year.
Mhm.
Like, what did you do to like d- did you say anything to yourself, or you mentioned your faith, but
Yep.
working through that, most people don't get past
Yep.
that valley of despair. Like, talk about that process and what you experienced.
Yeah, man. I'm glad that she mentioned the faith because that's really the only reason I got through that. Blessed that I had parents who did raise me in the church. So I knew about faith and I just know the principles of life and the principles of faith. And it's just that, hey, if you work hard, you will be rewarded for it. And it's not on my timing, but it's in God's timing. In the moment, that's such a hard thing to understand because I'm like, man, I want it so bad. Like, I'm the brokest person that I know, and I'm working harder than anybody that I know. And I'm like, why is this happening to me? But looking back on it years now, I'm like, thank God I didn't get rewarded back then because I was too immature. I had the wrong people around. I wasn't doing all the right things. Like, if I would have been blessed like I was literally that next year, I wouldn't be here right now. Who knows where I would have been because I just wasn't ready to handle it. So my faith just got me through it, man. And I was just like, I'm just gonna work and I'm just gonna keep on working because I know God's not gonna fail me.
Hmm. So you eventually found your way. You said one of your favorite strategies is creative financing. And I
Yes.
think that's kind of elusive to a lot of people too. Can you bring that up? Like, what have you been doing regarding that? And why has it become one of your favorite strategies?
Yeah, so creative financing specifically subject to. So how I found out about this was the year I purchased my first investment property. I was trying to figure out like how can I buy another property? Because I bought my first property when I was 22 and that was cool and all. But I'm like, all right, I need to start having more assets. Like it doesn't make much sense to just have a personal property and not be making any money from it. So I'm like, okay, what can I do? And then I looked at the rates and the rates were super high because they had just spiked up. I think they were hovering around I don't know what they were at, but they were super high at the time. So I'm like, I don't really wanna get that rate, and also I don't wanna have to put 20% down because that's really all I knew was get a conventional loan, 20% down, all that jazz. So I'm like, "Okay, there's gotta be some other ways because a lot of people I know were buying properties. I'm like, "There's no way they're always putting 20% down and buying a house a week. There's no way." So I started doing some more research. One of my favorite people to kinda gain information from at the time was Grant Cardone, and I was watching his YouTube video, and this guy, Pace Morby, popped up. I'm like, "Who is this guy?" He started talking about subject to and creative finance. I'm like, "Ooh, what is this? This is interesting." So I did, like, a super deep dive, and honestly, Jack, when I research deep, and I'll go all in. For, like, 2 weeks, I was just intaking his information. And I'm like, "Okay, cool." I started getting an understanding of what subject 2 was, and then I decided to buy his book. And I kid you not, I brought his book, I read 50 pages, literally just 50 pages of his book, and I put my first subject 2 deal under contract. And I love subject to because you can mitigate your upfront costs so much because you're just basically negotiating an entry fee with the seller and you can take their rate. And the rate is what's attractive to me because I love the cash flow. Because like I said, I'm 25 right now. I don't need a big lump sum of money. Like, what am I do with it? I don't have any kids. I don't have any family. It's just me. But I would much rather have long-term passive income, which in turn is the cash flow. That's my main strategy. I usually do mostly buy and hold, but I've also done a flip, acquiring it subject to. And yeah, that's what I do with subject to.
Hmm. Well, what I think is really interesting about everything you got going on, Chris, is that the fact that it gives you options. When somebody
Yes,
approaches you, you have a variety of ways, and if you're not buying the property, you are likely gonna be selling it because you're the realtor. So it
exactly.
gives you yeah, have you ever noticed that when you're talking to a homeowner, eh,
Mhm.
sometimes when you give them multiple options, one of the no is always an option, but it's kind of forgotten.
Yeah, 100%. Like, that's why I just preach to my agents, like, we gotta have the knowledge because I feel like literally any lead who wants to sell their home, why can we not help them? There's literally no reason on why we can't. Any single situation, we can help them. I say, like, a lot of agents, their first priority is just listing the home. Honestly, with us, that's our last priority is listing the home. Now, of course, some homes, yes, you need to list them. But okay, well, if I can buy it myself, that's the route that I wanna go 100%, and it can help out so much too, like, a lot of agents, when they're calling, doing these cold calls or trying to reach out to these for sale by owners expires, they don't wanna hear the seller they don't wanna hear anything from the agent because 'cause they're getting blown up with agents all saying the same thing. "Hey, we're gonna sell your home, we're gonna list it, and we're gonna make sure you get top dollar." Yeah, everybody says the same thing at the end of the day. You need a foot in the door, though, and my foot in the door is, "Hey, I'm actually a real estate investor, and I'm looking to purchase your property yourself." I say, "Okay, I do need to walk your property first before I can give you an offer." All right, cool. Meet them at the property. Then from there, all right, let's check it out. Do the numbers make sense for me as an investor? If they don't, well, I got my net sheet. I'm going to tell you, okay, you sell it with us. This is exactly how much you're going to make. And as you know, once you have that in-person appointment, as long as you're a closer, it's not hard to do.
So, can you give us an example of like, because you're very helpful forward, like a go-giver mentality on some of this stuff. Like when you're having conversations with a distressed homeowner, can you give us an example? Like, how did you help somebody?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh, I've got this great example. I made a video on it. It's basically like it's cheaper for me to buy a house than to go to Miami. So that specific homeowner, I'd actually helped her purchase her property a few months before. Of course, she had no equity. She purchased it with a VA loan and it's a brand new renovated home. So if she sells it, she's going to be in the red. And I don't want any of my clients to be in the red. There's just no reason for that to happen. So, and this was when I was newer to subject to also, so I didn't immediately pitch it even though I should have. But I ran a net sheet, was just kind of going through the numbers with her. I think for her to sell it, even if I didn't charge any commission, oh, and we paid a buyer's agent commission like the minimal, she was going to lose about $20,000. And that's never a feasible situation. So I started thinking about, I'm like, okay, how about I buy your property? And she was like, "You would do that?" I'm like, "Yeah, I'll buy your property, cool." So I purchased her property, I paid her closing costs, she just was done with the property, she didn't want anything to do with it. So I purchased it and then I quote unquote sold it under a wrap strategy. It was about $3,700 is what I spent out of pocket because I did the wrap strategy. I got a 12K down payment and then that cash flow is $800 a month and this will go for the next 30 years. So not only did I help her with taking the property off her hands, she doesn't have to worry about, and also because subject to, it constantly is boosting her credit score each and every single month too. But I also was able to have pretty much a home run deal from that.
It's such a turnaround because, Chris, when you said at 18, 19, or whenever, when you started this, the amount of confidence that it would take to pull that off is obviously you're very comfortable with those type of strategies now. And
Yeah.
did you happen to notice a light bulb moment that went off when you realized, oh crap, this is actually doable? And then things started to get easier just because you were carrying yourself or communicating differently.
Yeah, I would say after the first one is always the hardest, even though you may know what you're doing. And I had read the books. By that time I had finished the book, I would have watched probably hundreds of YouTube videos and I was in a mastermind about it too at the time. And I was still concerned. I'm like, all right, well, something's gonna go wrong. But after the first one and I picked up my first rental check, I'm like, "Oh, okay, cool, like, this actually works." And then when it came to the second one, when that one closed, which is the one I just mentioned, I'm like, "Alright, well, this really works." And I actually find it fun, like, to explain these things to sellers because most sellers, they have no idea what creative financing is, they have no idea what subject to is. A lot of times they're asking me like, "Are you sure you can do this? This is legal?" But that's where me owning a real estate brokerage does help. Hey, I own a real estate brokerage, so, hey, if, like, there's no way I can do anything illegal because my name's on the line at the end of the day. It's just
Mm.
building up the trust with the sellers too, like, that's a big thing for me, it's just building up the trust. So, like, a lot of investors, I think, unfortunately, that's where they lack is because they'll send, like, a quick little one-page contract, just send it via email and just they're like, "Hey, sign this." Well, I don't think you should do that. Literally, in my acquisition appointments, if they have really no idea what creative financing is, not only will I send them a video beforehand that I've shot on exactly what creative financing is and how it helps them, but I'll also walk through the contract with them step by step, line by line, so they can understand literally every single thing in this contract too. Honestly, Jack, I've never had a seller ask me for proof of funds. I've never had a seller ask for an E&D, any of that, just because of the trust that I built, the rapport that I built with them.
That's interesting you bring that up because earlier you mentioned going through some Grant Cardone podcasts or training, and I actually went through his sales training.
Oh, the Synex?
Yeah, it just didn't sit well with me.
Okay.
So the way you're talking right now, other than some of his strategies, I just don't see you leveraging the way he teaches sales.
Yeah, honestly, I've never been through like official sales training. Even when I was working at Foot Locker selling shoes, like I never went through like we never had real training. It was more so like I saw people wanted something and it's like I genuinely like to help people though. That's the thing with me. Like I genuinely like to help people and I actually believe in what I'm doing. So when it came to Foot Locker, like I love shoes. So I was like, okay, you want some nice running shoes? Hey, these are the best running shoes. I already know exactly what's going to work for you. So to me, it wasn't sales. It was just like customer service, helping people out. And same thing for real estate. Like I believe in my offer at the end of the day. Like I feel like what I can offer a seller is better than literally anybody else. So of course I'm going to talk to the seller just like that. We just have a regular conversation. And if they don't see the value in it, well, that's okay. There's plenty of other people who will.
Mm.
But yeah, I kind of get what you're saying. Well, as far as Grant, I didn't necessarily I like Grant more so like the mindset, just thinking bigger, like
Mhm.
the whole 10x, just think bigger. Like that's when I really love Grant. But when it comes to specific sales training, I just don't have the knowledge on that to be able to give an opinion. You know?
But some of the ones that I gravitate towards are some of the things that you're talking about.
Hmm.
Like you have to like, and I'm going to echo the fact you have to sell yourself and
Yeah.
believe you have the best product
Yep.
or solution for
I
you
agree.
to sell that
Yep.
properly.
And I agree, and I think it all starts here at the end of the day because so many people will try to sell the client before they sold themselves. You just have to really believe, and I think people don't really believe in their product. I think that's why a lot of salespeople do get burnt out. I think that's why a lot of salespeople don't convert in the way they should because they themselves they don't believe in it. Pretty decent with discernment and able to say like, they're just saying something. They're just reading off a script. Like they just need to sell something to be able to pay their family this month. Me, like, I really believe in my stuff. So I always tell the agents too, like, okay, I keep on referencing Foot Locker, but when I was in Foot Locker, one of my first years there, somebody came in talking about Bitcoin. I'm like, what is a Bitcoin? All I know is cash. Like, what is a Bitcoin? He was like, hey, you can get a Bitcoin for like $17,000. You can buy one Bitcoin. I said, why would I spend $17,000 on this one? Like, this doesn't make any sense. And now I believe Bitcoin is 101,000 for one Bitcoin. So I
Mhm.
always think like, man, what if I was able to go back in time to myself? Like me now, go back in time. What would I tell myself when he said no to that Bitcoin? I would be like, yo, buy this Bitcoin right now because I know it works. Like I have the proof. So you got to think of it the same way when you're selling to other people. Like you really have to believe in it so much. Like it wouldn't make sense if they say no, basically. And that when it comes to objection handling, things like that, that's why people, they don't deal with objections well because they don't really believe in it at the end of the day. But if you know something is going to work, handling those objections are easy, to be honest with you.
Mhm. Hmm. You're essentially a mentor and a leader for these realtors in your
Mhm.
team. Do you subscribe to any kind of mentorship yourself?
Yes, 100%. And honestly, that's probably one of the biggest things that's helped my business was being in mentorship. Like last year, I had never been part of a mentorship or anything like that, but I ended up spending about $50,000 for mentorship and masterminds last year. The return on investment on that was insane. And it was scary because I'm like, there's so many people on the internet who are doing scams. Unfortunately, their course is
Mhm.
not really much value in it. So it was scary for me to take that leap of faith, but I took it. And like I said, the return on investment was just insane. So definitely I would recommend to anybody like make sure you have a mentor. If you can't get a direct mentor, join like a mastermind or something. You got to be around like-minded individuals because you can't do things all on your own. Well, you can. It's just going to take you a long time to do it. And also, you're going to be capped. You're not going to really reach that next level because all you're doing is what you know. So you got to get around people. When I switched over my brokerages a few years ago and I joined the brokerage with my business partners now, and this is when I was just a regular agent. So one of the main reasons why I switched my brokerages is because at that previous brokerage, they basically said you had made it in life when you made 100K and you bought your first personal house. Well, I did that at 22. So I'm like, what do I do now? So I had to have that mindset shift. And when I was meeting with my business partners now, one of our first meetings, one of the business partners, we were just having casual conversations. And then he was talking about one of the other business partners. And he was like, yeah, he has his company and so on. And last month it netted him about 112,000 and so on. And he was just talking. I'm like, oh, one company out of the many companies he owns netted him $112,000 last month. He was like, yeah. Like, what do you mean? Yeah. And he just said it so casually. Was it like where I'm from, $100,000 like in a year you had made it. So that was such a crazy mind shift to see the thinking of the individuals around me and how they just thought bigger and how they just thought higher. And like I said, they said in a casual tone, not in a bragging way. So I'm like, okay, what do they say is bragging? $1 million a month, $10 million? Honestly, Jack, at that point, like I thought I was good at 100K. But then I set a new goal. I'm like, okay, I need to make 100K a month, not a year. And at the time I set that goal, it was just so far out of reach. It just seemed so unrealistic. But being in that environment, it pushed me to get there, and I was able to do it and do it multiple times. I'm like, "Okay, cool, like, this is really doable," and it just pushes you up to higher. Now it's not 100K a month, now it's 1,000,000 a month, and then it'll be so on and so on. So, I just think you definitely gotta surround yourself with people who are thinking bigger and thinking higher.
So when you put that money down for that first mentorship or mastermind or whatever,
Mhm.
like what was your thought process? Was there a point in time where you decided that this was an investment instead of an expense?
Yes, yes. That was the shift that really changed my mindset around money, because at that point, I kinda thought money was, like, probably something that you wanna keep. Like, I had a certain amount, like, I was like, "I need this to be in my bank account no matter what," because I just really had PTSD from being broke, to be honest with you. Like, my first year and all the credit card debt and things like that, I was like, "I never wanna feel like that again." So when I was able to get some money, it's like, hey, kinda acting out of scarcity in a sense, but your money doesn't really grow when you're acting out of scarcity. Even if you have it in a savings account, even if it's a high yield saving account, it's not really growing that much. Once, the mastermind, it got sort of pitched to me and such, and I saw the benefits of it, it was scary, 100%, but it's like, okay, well, it's an investment at the end of the day. So if I spend the 50,000, is it reasonable for me to be able to make 50,000 back? Is it reasonable for me to make 100,000 back? Is it reasonable to make 500,000 back? All these things were just going through my mind. I was like, okay, worst thing comes to worst, and I'm not able to make it back the first year, because the skills and things that I'm giving, I should be able to make this back over a certain amount of years. Like, I should be able to make it back eventually, because I'm investing into my skills. I'm investing into my mind. And these are things that no one can ever take from me, no matter what. So that really just completely shifted my mind to money is a tool and you have to use it. Like, one of our big slogans for our company is my money makes money. So a lot of people, they just want to, you know, hold their money and just hide it or bury their talents. But what I say is use that money to multiply it, get bigger and better.
I'm glad that you said buried the talents. I was going to bring that up. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I really appreciate your time here, Chris. And just to remind everybody, I'm going to direct everybody to your YouTube channel. I
Yes,
am
sir.
Chris A. Williams. I'm going to have that as a clickable link in the show notes. Before we jump into the rapid fire questions and close out this episode, is there anything we should have hit on here today?
No, I think we pretty much hit everything. Definitely looking forward to the rapid fire questions, but I'll say you just got to believe in yourself at the end of the day. Like, I know if I can do it, you can do it too. I am just a regular person. Like, I started out when I was 20 years old with literally no knowledge. I had no connections. I'm not the smartest person in the world. And if I can do this, I know you can do it too. So just do it.
Well, if you're ready, Chris, we'll jump in and close out this episode.
Let's do it.
What lie do real estate investors often tell themselves?
A lot of real estate investors often tell themselves is probably when it comes down to numbers. They try to skim down on the rehab budget, and they also try to push up their ARV just to make a deal make sense to them. Can't do that. You can't be emotional. You can't be opinionated when it comes to real estate. You just have to look at the numbers at the end of the day. And do not, please, please don't go too aggressive, because what's going to happen is you're going to get burnt, and that's how you lose money.
If you could go back in time and give your younger self a piece of advice, what would it be?
Oh, if I had to go back in time and give myself a piece of advice, it would be to shut up. I was going through a point in life in which, like, I was just posting everything, just posting all my feelings, how I thought about, being opinionated on things that didn't matter. I would say, just shut up, man. None of that matters. Like, bruh, you're gonna alienate a lot of people saying your opinions, and also your opinions are gonna change. And the thing about first impressions, a lot of time, that's what people are gonna think of you. You kind of alienate somebody. One year you may try to come back, 5 years you may actually need them, but they remember what you said and how you were acting, past then. So I would say just shut up, man. You don't need to say too much.
Do you have a book recommendation?
Yeah, I'm actually reading a lot right now. I need to get better with really zoning down on one book. I probably have like 8 books that I'm in the process of reading. But if I had to give one book recommendation, I would say $100 Million Offers by Alex Hormozy. no matter what
Just
industry.
oh, I just finished $100 million leads.
Yes, that's a good the blue one, yeah, that's a
Yep.
really good one too. But yeah, $100 million offers, no matter what industry you're in, if you apply the principles of that book, you will be able to sell people like it's easy.
What single strategy or tool have you implemented that has had the biggest time-saving impact to you or your business?
The biggest thing that I've done that saved time in my business was hiring, especially for the real estate company, the real estate brokerage that's able to run successfully without me necessarily. Most of the time in the day to day, I'm working on back end systems. I'm not really dealing with the agents and things like that. I'm just working on things that can help out the business instead of being in day to day operations. So hiring has helped out tremendously because if I didn't hire out, then I would be that person. If an agent has a question about an inspection report, I would have to take that call, and it's just not doable to scale. So hire,
Mhm.
hire, hire. And it can be scary to hire, I will say, but you got to do it if you really want to grow it.
Well, Chris, this was just fantastic. I really appreciate your time. Again, it is I am Chris A. Williams on YouTube. That's going to be a clickable link in the show notes, but I hope you consider coming back again sometime. This was just fantastic.
Yeah, I would love it. Definitely. Thank you so much for having me, Jack. I'm excited for the episode to come out, and I hope I was able to give value to somebody. If somebody can just do one thing that I said, hey, that would satisfy me so much.